The last section on Unit A looks at the concept of signposting and how we can sort of refer our students on to others around us. This could be other individuals or organisations to actually support them. And I guess realising that our primary role is to teach them, but there'll be times when we can't actually support them as well as other professionals around us, and realising that we can't actually do everything, and we should use the supporting network around us. As you can see, there are quite a few boundaries or limitations we might face as a teacher or trainer. The first one I've got here is time. So you only have a limited amount of time in the classroom with your students. You also only have a limited amount of time for actually planning and preparation. So you consider this, and therefore there'll be times when you can use others around you so that you can focus on your primary role of actually teaching. Money or finances can come into play. This could be a lack of finances for your students or learners. Maybe they're struggling to purchase resources for the course, and maybe you can help them access some funds or some grants with this. It may also be that yourself as a trainer or the company you're working for have a limited budget, so you might have limited access to things like photocopying or sort of multimedia or technology for your own resources. Your own knowledge could be a factor. You obviously have a responsibility to make sure your knowledge is up to date and your own CPD, but there'll be times when you think to yourself, okay, I've got a colleague or someone else who's got better knowledge within that area, and you may well pass your students on within that. Professional boundaries. I guess this is, when we talked earlier about responsibilities or roles, then we said it's good to be friendly and approachable, but are you really a friend to your students? You've got to maintain those professional boundaries and consider those within your actual teaching, and make sure you don't, yourself or that the students don't overstep the mark. You've got the syllabus I put here, so meeting those objectives, that is a boundary, particularly maybe on the shorter courses. You could be teaching a half-day mandatory food safety course, for example, and you need to actually make sure you teach the syllabus. You've only got 3 hours with those students, and you are quite bound and limited by that syllabus itself. I've also put the classroom and possibly the equipment on here as a boundary. Obviously, we talked earlier about choosing a suitable environment. But maybe at times, you're actually given the classroom or learning environment themselves. You're teaching a course in-house, and the classroom or the equipment available to you could possibly be a limiting factor. So let's just sort of summarise some of those restrictive factors you might face. And then the last sort of point, what we're talking about within Unit A, is the points of referral. Because of these boundaries, because of the concept of signposting, who can we actually refer people on to? Who are these other people and organisations? So I've put learning support as one of the first ones on there. If you've got students with dyslexia, dyspraxia or special learning requirements, if you work within a school or college, you're likely to have a learning support department. But if you're a smaller provider, you can still point people in the direction of support that they might need or require. Careers. So you may get lots of questions about when they complete the qualifications with you, what they're actually going to go on to doing. You may well be able to answer some of these questions yourselves, but again, it might be better to get a careers professional to actually support them and help them in this area. Counselling is another area, and the colleges that I've worked in both have had to sort of relate service on site. You're not a counsellor as a teacher or a trainer. I know, and on occasion a teacher might also be a qualified counsellor. But you've got to remember, as we said, your primary role is to teach them. So if they've got personal issues, often it's better to actually point them in the right direction of professional support for these. Your colleagues. I've often worked in departments where we had different skill sets. So you might get a question and think, oh, I know the person to go and speak to for that, and pass them on to a colleague who's particularly sort of got excellent knowledge within that area. Awarding bodies, exam boards and resources. Well, these are, other people you might signpost when you're talking about assessments, criteria, how they go about sort of passing qualifications. It could be reading lists, websites. So any sort of, extra information that you can point your students towards that may actually help them with their, progressing and the assessment process within their qualification.